So Games Workshop's come out with a new and spectacular Demon Primarch Angron model. The Deity Legion Codexes in 10th edition are going to get some rather fancy new collector's editions. There's potentially a hint of some World Eaters kill teams, and a small made-to-order release wave coming for Warhammer 40k this week with some made-to-order terrain. Let's do a roundup of Games Workshop's news and reveals over the week. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today I wanted to talk about the rather dramatic looking new Angron model. There's a new miniature for him and also Lotara Sarrin, and then also round up a whole bunch of Games Workshop's minor news, reveals and other bits from over the week. Things that I didn't really think needed an entire video all to themselves, but I still found interesting. Starting out with the biggest news, of course, Games Workshop are making frogs. These are pretty much self-explanatory, and they'll be coming in 412 resin very soon, so will probably be quite expensive frogs. But if you have been waiting for Warhammer related amphibians, then they've certainly delivered on that. Otherwise though, as well as frogs, Forge World also seem to have been busy reforging another Primarch with a new sculpt for the Horus Heresy, and it looks like in following the Horus Ascended miniature and the Angron Transfigured one, we now have Angron Transfigured, basically representing the Heresy era version of his Demon Primarch form, not so long having transcended his more mortal Primarch form and given himself over to the blessings of the Blood God. As you'd expect, the miniature's a rather big, dramatic and fun centerpiece model for him. The wings are kind of similar to Fulgrim's one, really quite big ones that stick up massively higher than the rest of the model. I'd imagine they wouldn't be the easiest ones to store and transport safely. I've certainly taken their fair share of battle damage. A fair bit of the miniature sort of feels like a midway fusion between his Heresy era sculpt and his 40k sculpt, which I guess is probably what they're going for. He's bedecked in a pretty crazy number of skulls all strewn about him there. A big chunk of his gold armour has all sorts of black spikes and horns and things bursting out of it for a bit of chaos corruption. And apparently the blades that he's wielding there are the blades of the Red Angel. Angron not really being too fussy about exactly what weapons he uses to kill things with. Again, maybe looking a bit of a midway between his previous weapons and Samniarius and Spine Grinder that he wields in his 40k model. He is maybe in a little bit of an unusual pose. He's got these standard tactical rocks on the go, plus a slain Blood Angel and a whole bunch of skulls on his base. I guess they've chosen Blood Angels given his big duel with Sanguinius before the Gates of Terror. I feel like his pose is maybe a little bit on the unusual side. He's got his legs really quite far apart there. I did see some of the initial impressions saying that it looks like he's maybe skipped leg day a bit on this model. I don't know if that's maybe a little bit more because he's more human proportioned on this one as opposed to demon juggernauts that his 40k model seems to be, with the more sort of backward jointed hoof type things. In any case, to me, he certainly seems suitably impressive. I don't think they said when he'd release in the article, but usually it's around about 1 to 3 months from these kind of previews coming out. And if you did want to pick him up, he's going to be considerably more expensive than the 40k model. Fulgrim's Transfigured one is £180, $275 US, or 220 euros. As ever, Forge World resin commanding a hefty price tag. For a few side-by-side comparisons, here's his full model next to his Heresy era sculpt that's the current one, before and after Cornate Possession there. In this one you can see just the size and scale of his wings, really being a massive dominant feature of the miniature in the same way as Fulgrim's were. Here's him side by side with his plastic 40k model. Again, like the Fulgrim Transfigured one, I feel like it's going down the similar sort of vibes as the 40k one, but just executed in really quite a different way. The 40k one certainly looks a bit more bestial really. The Heresy era one looks like it's the more busy miniature out of the two, just with the sheer amount of spikes coming off him in all sorts of different places, particularly on his demon weapons and his shoulder pads. The 40k one definitely has some bigger wing biceps as well. I'll be interested to hear what you think is the better sculpt out of the two of them. Here's him next to Fulgrim Transfigured, not necessarily the exact right same scale or anything like that, but certainly feels like they've gone for a similar sort of vibe with those massive great big wings. And I guess if they're doing Fulgrim and Angron, it seems kind of inevitable that they'd probably do Mortarion and Magnus at some stage. Will be interesting to see if they go through literally all of the Primarchs again with an updated late Heresy miniature version. Finally, that wasn't all for the World Eaters Heresy stuff, as we also have Lotara Sarrin. She's a fairly well-enjoyed character in the World Eaters Heresy lore, a rather crazed and fearless captain of the Conqueror, the World Eaters flagship pretty much, her mere mortal status not stopping her from standing up to the crazed murderers of the World Eaters on the ship and earning her the favour and protection of Khan the Betrayer as a result. I believe she gets rather fused with the ship in the later more 40k type setting. Apparently both her and Angron will get some digital rules downloads for the Heresy era to go alongside their new models as well. In any case, I'll be interested to hear your takes on the new miniatures. What do you make of new style Angron and Lotara? Before we move on, I'll just give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor in Deploymats. These guys are an Australian-based maker of gaming mats, the big and pretty nice quality sort of neoprene mouse mat style ones, to unroll for an instant gaming surface. The idea behind these ones is that they have the Pariah Nexus deployment zones basically baked into the designs for them. They're sort of subtly incorporated, while not completely dominating the artwork, and they have a bunch of little trinkets placed in the artwork as well at the right places where they're supposed to be objective markers. They've got a few different designs of them, including this one with the sort of chaos landscape and overgrown factory type ones. This one's available as a double-sided one. They're 60 by 44 inches, so the right size for 10th edition, and including shipping within Australia, I believe it's around about $200 Australian. It can be a bit pricier overseas though, at around about £160 to the UK, or around about $170 to the USA, though it might get hit by Trump tariffs. They have other designs as well, including a new Magma Outpost one and a Frozen Temple one. These ones are for similar prices. And here's just an example of one all set out for a game of 40k. They also have a few single-sided ones which do cost a bit less as well, and they're all listed on their Etsy store, which I'll leave linked in the video description. In any case though, thanks to them for sponsoring the video. Feel free to check them out linked in the video description below. Generally they've got pretty good reviews and ratings on their store. Next up, and sticking with the Ruinous Powers, earlier in the week Games Workshop gave us a sneak peek of some particularly fancy special edition codexes coming for the Deity Legions, starting out with the big Emperor's Children one, which we're kind of expecting them to announce the launch box for that Champions of Slaanesh box set at basically any point now. Games Workshop often do special editions for their codexes. In general though, they tend to be more sort of just like inlaid pages, fancy covers, and maybe something like a few art prints going alongside or similar. But for these ones they really seem to be pushing the boat out, and I've got no doubt that these will be sold at a price at far higher than the standard very expensive limited edition ones already. And if they don't make enough of them, then they're probably going to be a scalper's dream as well, unfortunately. It looks like the idea behind them is they have a sort of two-part box which splits apart in all sort of very jagged Chaos Tome sort of lines, and have a whole bunch of mysterious runes and symbols, this one focusing on symbology for Slaanesh. Then inside it you have the codex itself, a few art prints, some metal objective markers and part of a Chaos coin, plus some cards both for datasheets and stratagems. Here's the artwork for the Emperor's Children one. It's got a nice 3 numeral for the 3rd Legion, Fulgrim in pride of place on the cover of it, and a nice quote by Fulgrim, "I will make a banquet of your flesh and spirit. When I tire of that, we will play a new game." Then they've got some metal bits. I guess they're trying to incentivize people to get all the Deity Legion codexes, as they've got a Chaos coin type thing that clips together with magnets apparently. Really quite a fun thing I suppose, aimed to appeal more to collectors than players. It's not like the vast majority of Chaos collectors collect every single one of the Deity Chaos Space Marine Legions. The objective markers also have the Emperor's Children logo on them, and it comes with the datasheet cards, the same ones as you get in the Champions of Slaanesh box set, but also has cards for the stratagems as well, which Games Workshop hasn't tended to do, so I guess they could be another small incentive there. They also have the art prints as well, which are on some separate bits of paper it looks like. In any case, I certainly wouldn't be too surprised if these wind up selling quite quickly. They do look like fairly nice things, though as mentioned, I suspect that they're just going to be massively expensive, and probably a big rush on them due to the industrious folks of the scalping community. And I sort of feel like, from a pure value point of view, it's just not really the most practical thing that you need to start the army really. Particularly given that I imagine the majority of Emperor's Children collectors will probably be picking up the Champions of Slaanesh box set if they do want to get a tabletop army on the go, and that will have the codex plus the datasheet cards in it already. So you already have quite a lot of overlap there. I must admit I've never really been particularly over-interested in fancy collector's editions of codexes and books and things, and I feel like when they come out like this, there's often still the talking points that yes, it's still going to have a whole bunch of errata day one, so a bunch of the stuff won't be quite right, which I'm sure won't be the best feeling for a probably ludicrously expensive book. Let me know your thoughts though. Would you be tempted to pick up this one, or any of the other Deity Legion ones that are going to be following with a similar sort of style? It does mean there'll actually be 3 different Emperor's Children codex covers going round though. The limited art one in the Champions of Slaanesh box set on the left, and then the more standard Emperor's Children codex cover on the right. If that's not quite enough chaos for you, there was also an interesting teaser in the new Crusade Nachman Gauntlet book that might imply that there could be a World Eaters kill team coming at some point. And I first saw this one in Chapter Master Valrak's video the other day, so credit to him for sharing the excerpt here. I feel like these Crusade books and things that tend to deal with sort of current 40k lore and goings on in the galaxy right at the edge of the current timeline often tends to be some of the ones that are most ripe for clues and things. We had things like Thousand Suns Automata mentioned in the latest going on in the Pariah Nexus, and there's just a very small passage here that mentions World Eaters kill teams of Void Butchers and Axes of the Forge, sounding like they're leading some cities in some mass unrest, potentially to do with the murder curse that Angron unleashed in the Arcs of Omen series. It doesn't really sound like the Void Butchers or Axes of the Forge are particular clues. It sounds like they're just World Eaters warbands, the Void Butchers being well known for ship-to-ship combat with their Ursus claws, and the Axes of the Forge being a Khornate warband that's got close ties to the Dark Mechanicum, and have an unusually large amount of Khornate demon engines at their disposal. Specifically using the words kill teams though certainly could be teasing a new kill team kit, and I feel like the Khorne Berserker kit definitely is the sort of one that they could decide to release an upgrade sprue style one for if they wanted to, and that could at least have some interest for Warhammer 40k. Probably a bunch of fun new aesthetic parts at least, maybe a few extra bits that might gain in-game rules use as we have with the Chaos Space Marine Legionaries. I feel like it's always interesting to speculate on what's next for Kill Team. They do have a good track record with delving into some really interesting back corners of the 40k lore, or expanding things for different armies, with things like the new Vespirs, the Night Lords, and new Rattlings and Tank Busters, I think all being quite big wins in recent times. Next up, Games Workshop announced one of their more headline 40k books. A Mad Dog Grotsnik book is coming out, the single most well-known Orc pain boy around, responsible for the Ghazghkull special that turned him from being a regular boy into the biggest and baddest war boss in the galaxy. They didn't really give too many details away of what the new novel would be, but apparently he's making some sort of monstrous medical creation to help out a beast boss, and tested developments in Orc biology against a hive city. Apparently this one being written by Denny Flowers, out this year sometime. It will also have one of their sort of special edition launches with that rather cool mechanical Grotsnik cover that you can see on the left. As with a few of the recent Orc characters, it's maybe a shame that he doesn't have rules representation in the latest Orc Codex, though I guess you can just play him as a pain boy. He does seem pretty perfect for a solo character release. And I guess maybe if Orcs do wind up being something like the big antagonist faction of 11th edition, maybe they'll get a bunch of releases and there's a chance that he could return with some other fan favourites like Badruk or Zagstruk. Otherwise, for 40k releases, the other week Games Workshop teased the return of a whole bunch of made-to-order 40k terrain. 4 bits are going to be coming back for a limited time, and now it looks like they've put those up to go up for pre-order this weekend. So they'll be going live on the Games Workshop Warhammer web store from Saturday the 15th, and apparently you can order them until the 23rd of February and can take up to 180 days to arrive. The kits that are coming back are fairly popular ones. I think the oldest is the Imperial Bastion here on the left, and I feel like that's often been seen as a pretty fun and effective Imperial fortification. They've often had rules for it in 40k, and it still has some Legends rules now, I believe. Besides that, there's also 3 things from the Wall of Martyrs terrain set, the sort of trench line system that they have with a whole bunch of skulls and body parts up the front. Lots of Cadians that seem to have given their lives for the Emperor on that. There's a bunker here, as a slightly smaller Imperial emplacement. And then they've got 2 bits of their trench system, a defense emplacement type one. As I believe in previous artwork, they've often had Imperial Guard heavy weapon teams firing out of those holes, and then a bit more of a sort of standard trench network sort of thing, maybe not a million miles away from the styling of the Aegis defense line that's the current model for the Imperial Guard. As ever with Games Workshop terrain, it's likely to be on the pricey side versus other manufacturers, and perhaps a bit more so for this compared with some other things, given that you wouldn't be able to get them through third-party discount retailers. Otherwise, just to round up a few more things, they had their Rumour engine on Tuesday. This one looks like it could perhaps be a Dark Oath horse for Age of Sigmar. The sculpting looks really quite similar to this one with the way that they've done the Neves and the fur and stuff. The main release for this week are Old World High Elves, so they've got their army book, I think a couple of new Forge World characters and a whole bunch of returning plastic miniatures from the past. This one on their ride is their sort of army set battalion sort of deal. Again, they'll be going up for pre-order on Saturday the 15th, with full release on the 1st of March. For another minor thing, Games Workshop mentioned some organised play packs on Monday. These ones are apparently available to help creators of smaller tournaments, either at local gaming stores or being operated at a mainline Warhammer stores. It looks like they've got a few range rulers and some certificates and things like that, plus some objective markers. Though I feel like probably the main challenges of hosting an event are more finding the place to do it and getting the terrain and table set up more than anything else, plus organising rules and running it on the day. I guess these could be of some help to some people out there though. Otherwise, looking to the future for Warhammer 40k, for things that we're expecting soon, the guard points should be going kind of tournament live sometime next week. The Codex is still in its pre-order window, so we've got another 7 days or so before that comes out. It'll be interesting to see what people choose to put on the tabletop with their guard lists. The next big release that we're expecting for Warhammer 40k is the Champions of Slaanesh box set, unless they do some sort of limited edition run for Fulgrim like they did with the Lion. My first guess would probably be the Champions of Slaanesh box set on its own. It certainly seems like there's a very good chance it could be announced this Sunday or next Sunday if failing that. We're still waiting on some releases for some individual kit, Rattlings, Tank Busters and Combat Patrol Eldari, and the next preview show for 40k is likely to be in Adepticon on the 26th of March. Then we've got Deity Legion Codexes with World Eaters, Thousand Suns and Death Guard. The Lord of Poxes coming for the Death Guard, as you can see here. And then their further teasers were Black Templars, Grey Knights, Knight Armies and Space Marines after that, it seems. Certainly a fair bit of stuff coming for the 41st millennium in the not too distant future. In any case, I'll leave that one there for now. Let me know what you make of Angron's new and all very demonic miniature. Look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments. Feel free to check out Deploymats link below if you do want a custom made 40k battlefield with a whole bunch of the deployment zones marked out, and a big thank you to them for sponsoring the video. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. I'll certainly round up Games Workshop's regular news, as I do tend to post new videos just about every day. And if you'd like to support the channel and help keep all the videos coming, I do have a Patreon page linked down in the video description that has a few benefits such as seeing certain videos early and entry into the regular prize giveaways. In any case though, an absolutely enormous thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.